talking to Arlene Jacobs of Dignity Memorial. And I wanted to talk to Arlene because as an estate planning attorney, people come in all the time and I ask them about their funeral and they always get that kind of look like, ugh, like, I don't know anything about it. I haven't thought about it. Very rarely someone will come up and tell me they had a plan, or they say, let me just leave it to my kids, or someone else can figure it out. And so I met Arlene and I was having a nice discussion with her. And I said, I think this would be great for my audience to kind of learn a little bit about what Arlene does.
I plan the parties that people will not be attending. I sit down with families and discuss with them exactly what they think of when they think of funerals, and then put a plan together that matches their idea of what a funeral should be for themselves. And then we find a way to fund it so that it's in their budget, and so that they can pay for it a little over time before it happens, so the family isn't stuck with that big bill when it happens. I want to think about my funeral. Some say, like, I'm not going to be there, so what does it matter? But really, it is a celebration of your life. So your last goodbye, if you will. And I think that makes a difference, especially for families. If you've got kids and you want to give them one last chance to say goodbye, one last chance to tell them who you were and what was important to you. So when I talk to families, I have them, they have a book that they can fill out, that they can go through and really think about the things that are important. Sometimes I give them that information so that they can talk to their families, maybe get their input, and then we put a plan together that matches their expectations of what they think they want for their celebration of life. And I think some of the most unique ones really are the best, the ones that really celebrate a person and talking about remembering them as, a final farewell. And I think one of the most unique ones I ever planned was for a young lady who had been terminal, and she had lived her life vicariously through the movies. And so she wanted to go out on a red carpet and she wanted popcorn for her reception.
A lot of people think, oh, my family will take care of it, but you have to think also your family's going to be in mourning, and they're worrying about like probate. They're worrying about these other types of details, and they're just sad, and they're having family come from out of town. And I would think that's a lot of pressure and a lot of putting on their plate to figure out something memorable and meaningful for you. I know when my grandfather died and I wanted to put some notes together, it was hard to even come up with something on the spot. And it was something that would have been nice to like think about, or something that he could have said, oh, this is what I want, show these pictures, let's do a video. And I think that's a great idea of taking that burden from your family. Do you think that you help do that, take burden off the family members?
Oh, definitely. A lot of times I've never had a person come in that said, I'm so sorry that mom pre-planned her funeral. Just doesn't happen. To come in and pick out a casket. It's already done. They don't have to come in and try to decide on whether they want to have this or that read, or this or that song. Mom wrote it down. If she wrote it down, that's what you're going to do. And that makes a big difference. So
what do you plan? Do you plan the ceremony, or is there other aspects? You plan, what other aspects are there that people need to think about?
Big questions. What do you want? Do you want burial, or do you want cremation? And let's give an example. If you have a conversation with if you've got more than one kid, and you have this conversation with one child, and that child says, oh, Mom, I really think you should be cremated. But then you talk to your second child, and your second child said, no, Mom, I really don't like the idea of cremation. And you think about it, and you're like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll be buried. But you forgot to tell the first kid.
Yeah.
And the two of them come into the funeral home the day after they lose you, and they're going to fight. And that's one of the big things that we don't want to have happen. We don't want to have the families in disagreement. So if you've made that decision ahead of time and you pre-plan that you're going to have burial or you're going to have cremation, that's what we're going to do. And the other big problem that a lot of families run into is the money issue, because they're not thinking about how much it's going to cost for whatever their wishes are. And so maybe they told their kids, hey, I really want to be buried. And then it comes down to that they don't have that cash up front.
And
when
what
a
are we
funeral,
talking about? Because a lot of times when people pass away, I'll see like GoFundMes
oh, that's
popping up.
terrible.
Are
Yeah.
those there because funeral expenses are high? Like
Yeah.
what kind of costs are we talking about?
If you think about the cost of cars, for instance, and you think about how much cars have gone up in price, and a funeral is comparable to buying a car. So
Okay.
we know that if you bought a car, say in the 60s, you're paying, what, $300 for that car, for a brand new car. In the 70s, you pay maybe $800, and so on. And now, if you're trying to purchase a brand new car, you can be paying anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000, right?
But if someone
Yeah.
thinks it's a good deal, how do they do
Yeah.
it? Like how do people even pay for a funeral now if someone wanted to set it up? If they
So
don't
you
have
can,
that money?
yeah, you don't have to pay for it all at once. That's the other benefit. So when someone passes away, we have to have payment in full. We have no choice. We can't uncremate somebody from lack of payment. You can't unbury somebody. So when someone passes away, we have to get paid. A lot of times people say, well, so-and-so had life insurance, or, I think, or they're veterans, so I think that the VA is covering it or something like that. They think it's going to get paid for, and it turns out there is no money aside for that. So like you said, you see those GoFundMes pop up, people saying, we need help paying for a funeral. And that's very sad to me, because if that person had thought ahead, and this is something that's inevitable, we know there's only two guarantees in life, right? I mean, death and taxes.
Okay,
Benjamin Franklin said, yeah. Right? There's almost two guarantees. So why not plan ahead? Why not plan for the inevitable? We know it's going to happen. You're an estate planner. You deal with putting someone's will together. I mean, obviously, they're already thinking about what happens to my assets when I die. What happens to me when I die? What's going to happen to my body when I pass away? And if you don't have that plan in place, somebody else is making that decision for you, and somebody else is going to have to pay for it.
Yeah.
Because
So,
you know how long probate takes, right?
Yes.
So
yeah.
someone's estate is, even if they have a will, sometimes that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not going to have some issues with claiming all the assets or getting that back. It can take months. They've had to have paid for that funeral ahead.
To do this because the price is going to keep going up.
Price is going to keep going up.
So once you start, you lock it in, and then you can make payments.
You can make payments, but then you say, well, what happens if I pass away while I'm still making payments? We pay off the balance.